assistance to devil. If we really check them and check the background, there's something that is making them to behave the way they're behaving. And I'm going to quickly, briefly go through that in this session so that we can understand what bullying is all about and types of bullying. Again, like I said, I'm sure we have some schools here. So please, if you're a school owner or representing a school, please just type in the chat box, school owner representing a school. And why I said that is because I want to also share my slides on the policies. I mean, we've been shouting schools must have policies, they must have procedures, they must have this and that, but most people don't even share it. I mean, this I've done for 10 years going into the research. Thank you very much. We have Dr. Kukwala here representing a school. Thank you, sir. So I'll start. I mean, we have a handful of people already in the house. School owner, Mrs. Ajala. Is it the same as Angela Ajala, who like I said, I just came out of an event and I was rushing to come to this program. You're very welcome, ma'am. Now, another person, Gertie, school owner. Thank you very much, ma'am. So we quickly start so that we don't take much of our time. I will always start by this definition so that we can all understand bullying. And then from the definition, it will help us to understand why people behave the way they behave sometimes. So what is bullying? Bullying is that deliberate intimidation or persecution of those perceived as weaker. What did I say? What is bullying? Bullying is that deliberate. So please note the word deliberate. So it's deliberate. Intimidation or persecution. Thank you, Mr. William Pope from the school. So is that deliberate intimidation or persecution of those perceived as weaker? So we have three keywords there: deliberate, intimidation or persecution. That's another keyword. Of those perceived as weaker. I was discussing with somebody yesterday and the person said, maybe God is even a bully because he bullied Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden. And I said, no, it couldn't have been a bully because if you look at the definition of bullying, it's the deliberate. When people are deliberate about such actions, they want to see the person suffer. But God didn't do that. I mean, from what we know, yes, he drove them out of the garden, but he kept nurturing them. And that's why it's difficult to say even sometimes that parents are bullies. There is what we call tough love. There is a thin line between tough love and indulging children. Let us always look at this definition. Deliberate. That means it's intentional and for the wrong reasons. Intimidation and persecution. Yes, there's a very thin line between tough love and indulging children. That's very true. So deliberate intimidation or persecution of those perceived as weaker. Now, in any incident of bullying, there are three things we look out for. Is it deliberate? Was it deliberate? And especially, was it deliberate for the wrong reasons, for the negative reasons? Is it to intimidate another person? 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 Is it to intimid And please, let's note these three things. Was it deliberate for the negative reasons? Was it to intimidate someone or persecute someone? That's the second reason. That's the second thing we should always look out for. And the third is, would it leave a long-lasting negative effect on the victim? So that is why we said there's also a thin line between tough love and indulging a child, and then tough love and bullying. Because when we love a child and we discipline that child, the child him or herself will know. I mean, you discipline a child now, the child already knows that I mean, he or she has done something wrong. It doesn't mean that you carry it over for another 1 week. That's no longer tough love. That's now bullying. And we always say that we must be very, very careful not to turn a bully into a victim, because it's very easy. There's a thin line between that again, making a bully, turning a bully into a victim. Recently, it's been in the news that there was a child who committed suicide because he disrupted a school activity. They suspended him. His parents took him to another school, and the principal of that school now went ahead to talk to the other school that they sent him out on suspension because he disrupted the activity. So that school had to send the boy out. And of course, this boy took his own life. And that's how we're going to talk about the types of bullies. So that's why we'll know that bullies are actually weak people. Some of them have very, very, very low self-esteem. And that is why we must take them as human beings firstly. Yes, they might have to be disciplined, but they still need the support, the psychosocial support. They might be hurting. I remember in one of the schools where I had my workshop, the principal of that school said that whenever a bully is identified, and that's why I always put bullies in inverted comma. The principal of the school said that whenever a bully is identified, that they would make the bully wear a jacket that says, "I am a bully." And then the bully will go around the school. And I said, please stop it. Don't do it again. Because what you're doing is you're making the bully, you're now turning the bully into a victim. You're intimidating that child again now. Yes, the child could go for the normal, whatever it's the discipline for that offense, but certainly not wearing a jacket that says I am a bully around the school. So having said that, I'm just going to quickly go into the types of bullies. Most bullies will be homegrown. And that's why parents must be very, very careful. We must be very careful about the way we treat people around our children. Thank you, another school owner, Rennick School. We must be very careful about the way we treat children, people around our children. We must be very careful about the way we relate with people, because children are watching. I said most bullies are homegrown, and I'm going to tell us why. There are other types of bullies, and we can always trace them back to their families, and that's why I say most bullies are homegrown. One of the types of bullies that we have the sadistic bullies. Sadistic bully, they have very high self-esteem of themselves. They are the types who will not want other people to have what they have. They are the types who get unnecessarily upset maybe when somebody else seems to be gaining attention. And again, as parents, it starts from us, with us. There are some children that from home, they get everything. And so when they see other people getting the same thing, that puts them off balance. We remember there was an incident some time ago about a child in one of the schools in Lagos who almost poisoned another child because this child came into the school and was coming first. He used to come first before. I mean, we need to really speak with the family to know what happened. But some of the theories then was that probably the parents had told him that don't come back home, don't come back to this house with a second position, because the new girl that came to your school does not have 2 heads. And you know, children, they can't really process this information. Science has said it. I mean, research has shown that the front part of the brain that looks after our thinking, our decision, and all that, for children do not develop until they're about 25. And that brings me again to another question I always ask. When science has shown that frontal part of the brain does not develop till they're about 25, why do we call them adults at 18? I mean, I've asked that question before. When we know they can't really take informed decision before they are 25, why do we call them adults? Why did we tell them, okay, you can now start living on your own at 18? Well, that's another topic for another day. So we've talked about the sadistic bully. Another type of bully is anxious bully. Anxious bully, they have a very low self-esteem. You know, sadistic bully, we've talked about them, that they have a very high self-esteem about themselves. The anxious bully, they have very low self-esteem about themselves. So they always want to use another person to boost their image. Sorry. They always want to use other people to boost their image. And that's why they go after those who they think are, who they perceived as weaker. So those are the anxious bully. They have very low self-esteem about themselves. Another type of bully that we have are the underachieving bullies. The underachieving bullies, they might not be doing well at school or even at work. So when you hear people like, they hear people like, oh, that child is doing well, they will try to bring the person down, verbally or physically sometimes. Oh, when you say, oh, that child is, like if they hear they are underachieving themselves, that is, they are not doing well at school, and then you're praising the child that is coming first because of their imbalanced self-esteem again. You will hear them say, oh, what's in it? What does that person have? Or they might even say that the person is cheating. They will always find a reason for why that person is doing well. And when you ask them why they are not, so that it will cover up for why they are not doing well. So we call them the underachieving bully. Another type of bully are the bully victims. Those ones, they've once been bullied. And so when they grow up, they become the master of the game. So we call them the bully victim. They were once a victim, but this happened a lot in boarding house when we were growing up in those days. Form 1, Form 2, you're the ones carrying the buckets, doing house chores, hostel chores and all that. Some seniors will just call you and say, come. And then you see some people, once they start doing, we call it Fic and Bio in Form 3. Once you start doing sciences, Fic and Bio, that's the time for them to to also unleash the punishment they got as junior students on the junior students now. But one thing that keeps bothering me between, the time we were going to school and now is that, it's so saddening that when there is an incident of bullying, in those days when there's an incident of bullying, you will always, maybe your house, your college mother, or even somebody who is a classmate to that bully will come up to you and say, please, leave her now, let her go. But it's so saddening these days that the children take interest in watching incidents of bullying. These people are the people we call bystanders. And like I said in my broadcast, that the bystanders, they feed. The bullies, they feed on the presence of bystanders. So we're also going to talk about what we could do to help any bullying incident by talking about the bystanders. So I've talked about the type of bullies, and I'm going to actually stop there and maybe take questions before we go into the policies and the procedures, sharing my slides on the policies and procedures that schools need to have, because they are reporting lines. There are ways by which you can minimize bullying in your school. One of the things I did in my children's school was that, the school will always invite me, because then they now knew that I'd taken up bullying as bullying prevention as a workshop that I was going around other schools, because mine was, okay, well, if I was able to do this for our own child, what about other people who do not have the skill that I had to help their own children? So I was going around schools. I started with their own school and all that. But one thing we arrived at for the boarding house students, and please, we might want to note this, was that in their boarding houses, in the dormitories, you would always have seniors who look after the juniors. So in their own case, what we decided in the school was that anyone who would be a senior supervisor in the dormitories of the juniors will be chosen by the juniors themselves. So those seniors now see themselves as having it's a privilege to be a senior in the dormitory, to be the supervisor or whatever they call them in the dormitories. And what that means is that once the junior complain about you, that senior will go. And of course, no senior wants to go through that. And from time to time, maybe every term, you come to the end of your own tenure or a year, depending on the school, how big it is, how much they want to rotate the seniors in the dormitories. So at the end of the day, you're going to have only seniors in their own, you're still going to have some seniors, maybe for SSS, 3 students in their own dormitories. But 1 or 2 or 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 are in the other dormitories supervising the juniors. And like I said, it's the juniors who will choose them. So those seniors always see it as a privilege to be chosen. And when they come to the end of their tenure as the senior, they do a little party for them to thank them for looking after them. So this actually helped the school that took care of bullying a lot in the dormitories. It took care of the bullying incidents in dormitories that would have had in those days. Now, like I said, I'm going to open the floor for questions before we go into sharing the slides on bullying, on policies and procedures. So please, if we have any question, now I said something which I want us all to take in, the definition of bullying. And I said there are three things that we need to look at. Definition of bullying is that deliberate intimidation or persecution of those perceived as weaker. So the victim do not necessarily need to be weaker in the real sense. It's the perception in the mind of the bully that the victim is weaker, probably because the victim is a quiet child, or probably because the victim, just like the case of our own son, he just got back to Nigeria, he speaks in a foreign accent. It could be for something that makes the victim different from others. So it's never the fault of the victim. I always say this. It's always the fault of the bully. Now, talking about the definition, we've also talked about three things to look at when you're considering a bullying incident. Was it deliberate? Because sometimes children act in ways that, it wasn't deliberate. But then it looks like a bullying incident. Was it deliberate? We'll know if it's deliberate by the actions, by the questions we'll ask. I'm going to show us some of the questions. Was it deliberate? Was it for the purpose of intimidating that person? And is the action going to leave a long-lasting negative effect on that child? Once we're able to establish these three things, it becomes a bullying incident. And then we have to go through our policy to know the punishment or whatever discipline that has to go with that. Certainly, capital punishment is a no-no. Again, I told somebody some time ago that, do you know that bullies themselves, they are hurting and they need help? And that was why in my broadcast, I mentioned it, that the child who bullied another one, or who we said bullied the other one, also needs help. So it's not just good enough to say, okay, leave the school, we don't want you again. She's a citizen of the country. And we need to know exactly why she's behaving she behaved in the way she did. So I'm going to leave the floor now open for questions before we share the slides on the policies and procedures for schools. You're all very welcome. Again, I'm Yeye Oba Adeshola Oyinloye Undu. Please, you can unmute anyone who wants to ask questions. Please, can you just signify with a raised hand, and then I can unmute you, and we take your questions. Because I know so many, you can ask questions even on incidents that have happened before and all that. I'll try my best to do justice to them in the best that I know and from experience. So please, do we have anyone who has questions? Okay, I have Mrs. Olufunke Ajala. Please, you have the floor, ma'am. I think you can unmute yourself. Yes, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you very much, Yeye
Adeshola.
Yeye Adeshola. I'm so happy that I joined. Mine is not a question. I just want to relate an incident that my children were involved in. They are really, really old now. They were in secondary school then, in a very, very highbrow school here in Lagos.
Okay.
The people I'm talking about now, they are twins,
Okay.
and they're already 40. Oh. They're 40 now. So I'm talking about, they were in JS, I think, 2 or 3, okay, when I had to go to their school. Because they came up one day and said, "Mommy, I am not going back to that school."
Yeah, I thought as much.
Yes, and they are boys. I said, why? Said, I've now told me of this boy that is always, every time when he's passing, we just bang on his head, bang on his head. Yeah. And unfortunately, I have a very, very bad temper too. So I went to the school. It was at the PT, and I stood up. I said that boy must be produced. The proprietors did not want to produce, but when they realized that I was not going to allow anything to go, because I actually went, that boy must be produced. So the boy was produced. And when I saw the boy, very, very big boy like this, very, very big. And look at my own children. Then they were very, very small. Okay. So I now looked at him. I said, oh, you are the one harassing my children. The boy started looking at me. I said, well, there's no way I can beat you, because that was what came to my mind. I said, but I am assuring you, unless you don't get out of this school, I will make sure that I get area boys to please beat you. Then I will now face your mother. That the two, myself and your mother, will now face each other. You cannot believe it. That was the end of the bullying of my children.
That would be the end.
I don't say it is the right way of handling it, but that was the only thing that came to, because that time I said I was going to really, really deal with the boy. But when I saw the boy, he's really, really massive. And I just look at it and said, well, I can't undo you, but I make sure that I get people that will beat you. I said, unless, and I learned that he was afraid of getting out of the school. Yeah. And
you got somebody who...
I don't know whether it was the right I know as a school owner now, I know that it's not a right
approach
way of handling it. But that was what I did, and my children, and they started calling them, leave them, at the last strings, leave them, goody. Their mommy will show up now, leave them till they left that school. And they were never tormented again. Thank you. It's just to share my own experience.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Ajala. I mean, I can understand why you said, what you said, like mothers. I heard a lot of mothers too say, hey, so you beat my child like this, 30 slaps. If adults were counting the number of slaps that girl gave the other girl, I was like, 30 slaps. Hey, that day you will know that you are beating somebody's child. But I would say, I mean, as at that time, maybe there wasn't this awareness of anti-bullying policies and procedures. Because if there were policies and procedures in school, I mean, there were reporting lines. But I'll say something, the antidote, I always tell everyone, the antidote to stopping a bullying incident is to speak out. You know, I've said something that most bullies, they don't have so good self-esteem. They either have a very high self-esteem or a low self-esteem, so they don't have a healthy self-esteem. And most times, they don't want people to know that they are doing it. And that is why, even now we talk about cults. In those days when we were in college, if you look at those people who were in cult, you would never know that they were in cult. Because they're usually the very quiet ones. So there's something wrong with them, with the bullies. And the antidote is to speak out. And that's why we must always tell our children, please speak out. Speak to me. Let me know what is going on. Because once the bully knows that you've identified him or her, they are going to back out. They will start looking for another victim. Because like I said, they are the problem, not their victims. So once, the fact that they don't touch the twins again, that guy does not touch the twins again, does not mean that he does not go to another child though. It will take on another, because it's a psychological problem. Until that psychological problem is dealt with, they won't stop. And that's why I always say bullies themselves, they need help. They could be helped by the school, by bystanders. And I'm going to talk about why they could be helped by bystanders. I have Dr. Thank you very much, ma'am. I hope I've been able to shed some light. I mean, as at that time, you did what you thought was best. But in this day and age, because we don't want to teach our children how to, I mean, like you said, now you're not a school owner. We don't want to teach our children how to disrupt schools and all that. The better way around it is to have the anti-bullying policies and procedures in place. Like I said, I'm going to share those policies and procedures. I do them for schools, but I will share them here for us to just have an idea of what they look like. There are reporting lines. There must be reporting lines. So thank you very much, Mrs. Ajala. Thanks so much. Now we have Dr. Tolu Fakaye's hand up. So please, can you have the floor? Can you please unmute? Unmute yourself, sir. You're muted. So if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Okay, can we have another, I mean, do we have any other person who wants to ask question or say something? Because we can't hear. Dr. Fakaye, please, can you unmute yourself? Because we can't hear you. You're muted. Okay, do we have any other person while we try to work with Dr. Fakaye? Do we have any other person? Okay, we have Dr. Popola Sunday. Good evening, sir.
Thank you very much for putting this together.
Thank you, sir.
This is very, very interesting. And as you said, yes, bully is this intention act by the person who is bullying somebody else. But one thing I want to figure out, I mean, in the Western country, yes, is zero tolerance against bullying, unless if it's not reported. Once it's reported, something will be done, investigation will be made, time will be wasted to try and find out whether it's a true bullying or the person is just trying to get the other person into trouble.
Yeah.
But in our country, Nigeria or generally African country, bullying sometimes is not seen that way. It's probably seen as somebody trying to defend themselves or trying to put their point over. So what the question I'm trying to find out is, do we have rules and regulation in our country to put this thing right, to spend the kind of time that the Western country will spend to investigate and do a kind of, and then discipline the person if necessary, suspend them, do whatever it is. Do we have that in our country?
So generally, I've tried all I could as a person to even reach out to NAS when we had the 8th assembly. Which one was the one? I think it was the 8th assembly in 2015, 2016. I mean, but you know, it's always difficult to do that. But I tell you, there isn't any rule as in an act, to the best of my knowledge. I know Lagos State had an executive order around bullying, around child protection, not bullying, around child protection some time ago. That's the best that I've seen that has come close to prevention of bullying by state government, to the best of my knowledge.
Mm.
And it's very important that we make, I mean, the state government or even the nation make this compulsory, like we have in other countries, other climes. In US, if you're operating a school and you don't have a policy, the bullying prevention policy, it's a crime. And that's where I wish we could get in Nigeria, in a situation where every school, I keep saying it each time I have my workshop, that every school should have the policy. Like I said, by the time I show us the policy, the way it looks, we will understand the reason why we should have it. Because once you have it, I mean, it's easy to work on a bully, knowing as well that the bully also needs help. And that does not still mean that the bully will not be disciplined. If you have to suspend the bully for some time or get the bully to do certain things, I mean, to apologize and all that. And again, the essence of those policies is that once you have the policy and the procedure, you already know the punishment or the discipline that will go with certain misbehavior. So you're not giving Ade a suspension or expulsion while you're giving Ada that committed the same offense just to cut the grasses. With the policies and procedure, you're going to have objective reaction to the incident. Doctor, thank you, sir. I hope I've been able to answer that question. We don't have, to the best of my knowledge, there are no acts yet in Nigeria backing this up, bullying especially.
Okay,
but
thank you.
I know that individually, like when we go on workshops, we encourage schools, please put up your policies and procedures. When you go to some schools, they will tell you, oh no, there are no bullying incidents in their school. And I keep telling them that bullying must occur in every context where you have human relationship. I'm sure even in the animal kingdom, only that we can't read them. They will also have bullying. Yes, you see some cock trying to bite the crown of another cock. Mm-hmm. I mean, we can't explain it because we are not there. We don't understand their language, but I'm sure they too have it. So how much more we human beings? So any context where we have human beings, there must be bullying. There's nothing like it. The only thing is that you may minimize it. You could curb it. But when I hear a school, I tell parents, when you take your children to the school, the first thing you ask is policy, the bullying prevention policies and procedure. If they tell you, no, we don't have it because we don't have bullies, please, the next thing is take your 2 legs and run away from that school. Take your children out, because there are no schools that won't have, there are no places where you have human beings interact that there won't be bullying incidents. It's just that, I mean, maybe people curb it or they try to minimize it. So I think there was a question that came in from Dr. Fakeye. He said he couldn't unmute himself. So he said, I wanted to ask how to identify students who were raised from homes where bullying was prevalent. Also, are there means penalizing parents or guardians of bullies so they don't breed more bullies? Well, let me start with the first one. How do you identify students who were raised from homes where bullying was prevalent? It's simple. I mean, I gave the types of bullies. Some are anxious bullies. They have low self-esteem of themselves, and they're just upset when they see other people doing better or something. I mean, just very low self-esteem of themselves. And then they want to, like we say when we're in school, they want to gather spectators. They want to use another person to boost their low self-esteem. And as such, you see them slagging other people, saying wrong things, carrying rumor. There are some people there are some students in school that are known for gossips. It may not be because bullying was prevalent, but because they had that unchecked behavior. Bullying may not be prevalent in their homes until you ask them. Because when you start asking them questions, you will know if they were really coming from a home where bullying was prevalent. Okay, I'll go to that question later. So that is one of the questions. I mean, that would be the way I will answer that. Once you have a child who is behaving in a non-conformist way, like beating other people or slagging other people, I mean, we didn't go into the types of bullying. We have emotional, physical, so it's not only physical. We have psychological and other, but because of time, we won't go through that, because if we have to do that, it's going to take another 2 hours. But once a child does that, like gossip about other people, isolates other people, abuses other people, slags other people, it's time for us to check why the child is doing that. Is it because the child is from a background that encourages such? Because there are some parents that all they do is to slag other people. All they do is to gossip about another person. All they do is to isolate other people, isolate their house helps. And these children are learning from them. So until we actually ask questions, until we actually know what the problem is before we can say whether it's because they are from a bullying environment or because they just were not nurtured properly. Another thing, another question you have here, ma'am, sir, is that are there means penalizing parents? To the best of my knowledge in Nigeria, I don't know, I don't think there are any ways you can penalize parents. But like I said, in the incident of the other child who was slapping that girl, yes, the girl has been suspended. But I mean, if I were that school, or I would encourage the parents to take her to a psychologist, because later I got to understand that it wasn't her first time. So there's something triggering that behavior. It could be more than psychological issue. It could even be a psychiatric issue. And like I always say, a damaged child becomes a damaged adult if unchecked. Unchecked as when even they are 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, they start exhibiting tantrums. That's the time to say no to certain things. So I hope Dr. Fakeye have been able to respond to that. I have some, before I take the comment on the bullying policies and procedure, let me just take Mrs. Nene Egba. Please, you have the floor, ma'am.
Yes. Good evening. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you so much for this bullying talk. Very, very necessary and very in tune with what is going on. My issue is with parents that are in denial that their children are somewhat of bullies in school. And how do we, get that parents to understand that we are not trying to victimize your child, or, we are not trying to make it seem like he's the devil in the school, but he's actually, or he or she's actually bullying children in school. And if we have a school system, let's say that are not opportune to have cameras in the classroom, and we don't have, video proof, and anytime it happens, it's not something we can actually get video proof on. How do we just, tell these parents that your child is a bully, basically?
Okay, I'll tell you that even when you have videos, my big sister happened to be an administrator in one of the universities, private universities. When you have videos, you see parents that will tell you this is not their own child, because every child is a good child. But then, like what I say is, firstly, it's important to even let parents know about bullying. Always have workshops, have programs, let them know about the attitudes. And then, like I said, let me just quickly go through these policies and behave and procedures. It could actually help a lot of these questions, because even in giving them the discipline or the punishment, there are certain things you need to assess. Like I said, it's a three-way thing. We look at the bully, the bully is a human being, is also a citizen of this country. So even if they go leave my school, that bully is going to another school. And if that bully is damaged as a child, will grow up a damaged adult. So like I said, let me go through this, and hopefully maybe by the time I go through it, some of these questions we want to ask, we would have been able to understand it more. For parents, like I said, I mean, every child is a good child to every parent. Even when they are seeing it like this, they will tell, I just gave you an example, in a university where you have CCTV, and you show a parent the CCTV footage, and the parent, everybody could see that this is that child. The only person not seeing that is that child is the parent. But that's why the school has to do what it has to do, even when they say no. Firstly, giving out the workshops, telling them about, keep telling them about bullying, what bullying is about, what bullying is not, and on a regular basis. Some schools will do it like every beginning of every term, because you're having new students all the time. So it's something that should be done from time to time. Unfortunately, like I said, some school owners are in denial as well. When you go there, they say, no bullying in our school. But we all know that any context where human beings interact, you have bullies there. So I'm going to just quickly share my screen, and we can see some of these policies. Okay. Okay. So can we see the checklist? Can we see my screen? Can we see my screen?
I can see it.
See, but it's not legible.
Yes, we can see us.
Oh, okay. Maybe I will read it. Okay. I think you can see it now. A message
No,
that
it's not clear. Yes. Better.
Okay, because a message is,
Yes.
I can see a message now that says that my participants can see my screen. Okay. Oh dear, there are so many people coming in. Please, I'm going to make Dr. Popola, are you still there? I want to make somebody a co-host so that you can help to admit the you can help to admit the what's it called now? I mean, anyone coming in. Okay, I think I don't have anyone coming in. So please, if you can see the screen. Okay, Chioma Obodo, okay. If you can see the screen, these are the checklists for review of the anti-bullying policy and its implementation. The Board of Management of the PTA must undertake an annual review of the school's anti-bullying policy and its implementation. The following checklist must be used for this purpose. The checklist is an aid to conducting this review and is not intended as an exhaustive list. In order to complete the checklist, an examination and review involving both quantitative and qualitative analysis as appropriate across the various elements of the implementation of the school's anti-bullying policy will be required. I mean, I was at a School Connect event in Abuja today, and I recall the keynote speaker said clearly that, every school should have data. So what are we saying here? There is a bullying incident, it's been reported, you put it down, you write the type of incident it is. Sorry, just a moment. Sorry about this. So, I mean, there is a bullying incident. You're going to write the incident, and you're going to write how many you have, the type of incident and all that, so that when parents come and they ask, oh, my child did this, you're going to put them through the whole process. It's not just going to be subjective. It's going to be an objective exercise. And the only way it can be an objective exercise is by going through some of these things. Like I said, this is the checklist for the review. If you're reviewing the policy, we're going to go through the policy in a bit. It says, as the board, PTA formally adopted an anti-bullying policy that fully complies with the requirements of an anti-bullying procedures for primary and post-primary school. You tick yes or no. As the board, PTA published the policy on the school website and provided a copy to parents. You tick yes or no. As the board or PTA ensured that the policy has been made available to school staff. You tick this. So these questions go on and on like this. These are the checklist for you to, I mean, that calls for the review. Or even when you're starting the bullying implementation of the anti-bullying policy. So when you start it, you also tick. And after when you want to review, I mean, some people say annually, but because of the number of students we have in school in Nigeria, I think twice a year will not be a bad idea. I mean, twice an academic year, not a full January to December, academic year. So you start in September, maybe before resumption, to assess what happened last term or last academic session. And then maybe by the time you go for the Easter, the second term break, you assess again before you eventually go for the final break, for the final holiday. I mean, for the resumption again. So twice an academic session might be good. For me, that's what I think. Some people will say maybe once an academic session, but I mean, it's up to every school, depending on the size of your school, and how many incidents you have. So these are not all the questions, like it has, like we mentioned there, that the list is not exhaustive. But I mean, just to let us know that before you start a policy, you ask these questions. I mean, you can't just start a policy without letting parents know. You can't start a policy without letting teachers know. You can't start, I mean, when I say no, educating, having a retreat or a workshop, parents must know about it, teachers know, what's it called now? Even the students themselves, they must know about it. Now, I recall when my children were outside the school, when our children were outside the school, each time they were going back to, each time they were resuming, we will read the school rules and regulation for them. Don't go on the green. Don't do this. Don't hurt another child. We read it for them because they send in those rules and regulations with their school report. So when they're having their school report at the end of the session, they send in the school rules and regulation, which includes the policies. So when they are resuming school in September, and they've had their holiday, probably they've forgotten about the rules and regulation. The first day at school, we have a meeting and we read out this policy again, because they always say that where there are no laws, there's no sin. But this time you can see the family, we are reading this to you. So that just shows that be careful and watch what you do. Don't go on the green. Green means the grasses. Don't no pull, no shoving and all that. So that's what schools should do before you start the anti-bullying policy. And even when you're reviewing it, you do your checklist. We have a list of these things that we give to school when required. Sorry. So that's the check about the checklist. Let me just increase it again. Now, the next one is the recording bullying behavior. Now we will see here that this will actually help us to give objective reactions. In this recording the bullying behavior, we have the name of the pupil being bullied, the class and class group, maybe it's in class 2A or class 2 flower, whatever. The name of the classes of pupils engaged in bullying behavior, including the bystanders. So like the one that we had, because they'll be useful for this, investigation. Like the one we just had 2 weeks ago, where people were even doing the video, making a video of the incident. Such people will be called to this panel. They are the bystanders. So it is not the word of the assumed bully against the word of the assumed victim. So this type of recording bullying behavior, we have the source of bullying, concern report. So this is the child that was bullied, the bully concern. And I mean, the child that was bullied, the bullies and the bystanders and all that. So we're going to have them, we're going to tick it. The pupil concerned we tick, if we have her or him. The other pupil, including the bystanders, we tick, we have them in attendance. The parents, are we involving the parents? Are we involving the teacher? Is it the house mistress? Other, we put it there. Where did the incident occur? Is it in the playground, classroom, corridor, toilets, school bus, other, wherever it occurs, we write it here. Remember that this is the bullying, this is the incident report. It's like an incident report sheet, which we have in organizations normally. So this is like an incident report sheet. And we have here the type of, the name of person who reported the bullying incident. We have the type of bullying. Is it the cyber bullying? Is it physical aggression and all that? And then we have where behavior is regarded as identity-based bullying, indicate the relevant category. I mean, this one has to do with maybe it is homophobic like we have outside the country and all that. Tribally, it could be tribal in Nigeria. It could be because the person is religion. We can have religion here. So when it is based on, physical and emotional and all that type of bullying could be in different ways. But this one has to do with identity-based bullying, especially. Then we do a brief description of the bullying behavior and its impact. You remember that we said that to be able to identify if it was really bullying, we will know if it's deliberate, if it's for intimidation, and if it will leave a long-lasting effect on the victim. And then, you see, that's why I said we now take the details of actions taken. So in that case, we are not taking the action taken for Ade, who did the same thing as what Ada did. Should not be different in the same circumstance. So that will make us to be objective. We'll be able to present this data to parents when they come calling. Oh, my child just did this. Now just slap this person. Why did you expel? I mean, like in the last one, we acted on impulse. It shouldn't be. Because it shouldn't be that another incident like that happens and you just say, go and cut grass and go. We must be consistent and we must be objective. And the only way we can be objective and consistent is by recording the bullying behavior and the discipline that follows after. So when a parent comes and says, why did you do this to my child? You just bring out a list. In fact, it's not going to only be on sheets like this. You're going to be recording them. Maybe in a Google form or something, so that you have your analysis. And it will also help at the end of the time when you're reviewing. It will also help to review the type of discipline that we're giving to these children when they behave in certain ways. It will help us to be able to tell the parents and teachers, even at the end of the term, that these are the bullying incidents, these are the ways we're able to address it. It will also help us to be objective. So we are not, because we somebody what's his name now? Maybe Remy is a senator's child, and you just say we give you 1 week suspension. But because maybe Stephen is a child of a small businessman, and you say we're going to suspend you for 1 month. We should not react to bullying incidents of the same type of incidents in different ways. We must be consistent and objective. And the only way we can be consistent and objective is by recording the behavior, what have the incidents in this way. Every organization they normally have incident report form. So this is just like an incident report form. Another thing we have here, this is the actual policy. And I'm going to take us through this. Let me just increase this a bit. This is the actual anti-bullying policies. And it says all sections of this template must be completed in accordance with the requirements of the Education Welfare Act 2000. I mean, this is for another country, and the Code of Behavior Guidelines issued by the Board of Management, PTA, of so. So we can just say in accordance with our own resolution as a school, because like I said, we don't have that act in Nigeria yet. The Board of Management or the PTA of our school, you mentioned the school here, has adopted the following anti-bullying policy within the framework of the school's overall code of behavior. And then it goes like that. The Board of Management, PTA, recognizes the very serious nature of bullying. Sorry, just a moment. I think I clicked on something. So I was trying to open it with Google Documents. Okay, so the Board of Management, PTA, recognizes that bullying is a serious offense. I mean, it's serious in nature, and the negative impact it can have on the lives of our pupils. And that's why we're taking this practice to prevent it. So you let parents know that you're taking on this policy. A positive school culture and climate, which is welcoming of difference and diversity, and is based on inclusivity. And you say the reasons why you're actually putting up your bullying policies. These are all the reasons. And then you say, in accordance with the anti-bullying procedures, bullying is defined as follows. Bullying is unwanted negative behavior. So parents get to know why you're taking such actions. Remember, it's a collaboration. So the school is not just sending out policy. You're discussing with parents, you're telling them you're putting up a policy and procedure in this school. And these are the reasons. And you explain to them, that was why I said it in my broadcast, that an anti-bullying policy will always have the definition of bullying. It will tell you the types of bullying behavior and many more that the school does not tolerate. So we end it here by saying the negative behavior that does not meet this definition of bullying will be dealt with in accordance with the school's code of behavior. And then you can mention the other types of bullying procedures. You say additional information on different types of bullying is set out in our anti-bullying procedures. We're going to see that shortly. The relevant teacher for investigating and dealing with bullying is, so you let this, you remember this is the policy. So you let them know the teachers that will be handling this policy. And then the prevention strategy that you are putting in place as a school, and the school's procedures for investigation. So you're carrying the parents along, and you're carrying the students along as well. Like I said, when my children would resume school outside the country, we always sit them down because the school would have sent us their policies and procedures. So we see them there and we all own it. We parents, we own it together with the children. So everybody, you own that, you own those policies and procedures. You know that these are no-go areas. Don't pull anybody, don't push. Now, the school's program of support for working with pupils affected by bullying is as follows. You're going to type all this. I mean, let them know. So they know that you're not only putting up the policy, you're also putting up your own responsibility. You're not putting the responsibility on the children alone or on the parents. Everybody, we all have our responsibility, shared responsibilities. The supervision and the monitoring of pupils or students. Then the prevention of harassment, and then you sign out your anti-bullying you sign out the anti-bullying policy, and this will be reviewed from time to time. So this is actually the procedures that the schools will follow. You know, we've just showed us the policy. The policy is for us to give to school, to parents. Now we are talking about the anti-bullying procedures for school. This one has the name of the school. Is it a co-education school, private school, whatever you want to describe the school, it says that. And then here we talk about the schools, the school recognizes the right of stakeholders, which includes school owners and all that. Bullying and harassment can have, and then we explain that it can have a devastating effect on the health of confidence of both the bullied and the bully. And then here we talk about the school's anti-bullying policy, the reason for giving it to them. I mean, the other one I showed to you was like a workbook. This one is part of the complete book, the complete package that we give to the children. So here it's defining bullying. It's talking about the effects, the types of bullying. I actually put this up. It talks about, this is my definition, bullying is the deliberate intimidation or persecution of those perceived as weaker. So here you have the definition, you have the effects of bullying, the telltale signs. It's included in this procedure. Who may be vulnerable? It's like a package, do we call it a religious package, a dictionary that they need to have as parents. Because I know somebody was asking a question sometime, in this workshop, that do we have book that we give out? This actually covers almost everything. Although we have a separate booklet that we call Bullying is Not an Option. But this policy and procedure that I'm showing us here also has all this definition that we have in that booklet. I think the only thing that is not here is, that is in the booklet, which is not here, is the help. How to help the bully, how to help the victims, and what schools can do, what parents can do. So here we have the telltale signs. Just like Mrs. Ajala said when she spoke, that I saw one of the students said he was not going to school. These are some of the telltale signs. When a child tells you, I'm not going to school, please don't see the child as just being lazy, or a child who wants to skip school. Please go try to understand. Normally school is fun. I remember in those days, if for anything we want to go back to school, want to see our friends, we want to talk, we want to gist, we want to talk about, even in those days of what's it called, that we watch at weekends. We were watching Love Boats and all that. You want to go to school and talk about those those stories, I mean, village headmaster and all that, what happened to Amebo and all that. So school should be fun. But when a child now does not want to go to school, then we really, really need to know why. So those are the telltale signs. Some children have nightmares. Please, parents, note this. And I always say it. When your child has a nightmare, don't just start binding and losing. It's the time to know exactly what is going on in the mind of the child during the daytime, what the child is going through. So in this policy and procedures, you're going to have who may be vulnerable. We'll explain to parents who could be vulnerable. It could be anybody. So it is not the fault of any child. Like somebody said, maybe it's because the other child is quiet. No, it's the perception of the girl that beat her, that was slapping her. She thought she's quiet and she could get away with it. And like I said in my broadcast, the best reaction was what that child did. She didn't react. And that put that bully. Remember, we've said that the bullies, they have self-esteem issue. That put that bully on the edge. And the only thing she could do was just to keep slapping her because she wasn't sure of the reason why that child remained that calm. She could be worried that that child has a video somewhere. So she won't go more than that slapping. Maybe she had other intention, but she won't go more than that. She wouldn't know the reason why that child remained that calm. Remember that bullies, they don't have very healthy self-esteem. So she herself would be worried that the girl was not moving. If she had moved an inch, I can almost 100% assure you that that child would have been beaten more than what we saw, because she was, her movement will fuel the ego of that bully. And not only the bully, the bystanders. And remember that bullies feed on bystanders. So who may be vulnerable? Anybody, anything that sets a child different from another child could be a target for the bullies. It's the bullies that have problems, not the victims. So where does bullying occur? They're all here. How do I know if I am bullied or harassed? We tell people the different types of bullying, which we didn't mention here. We have the physical, we have the emotional. Emotional include even telling people to go and, I mean, we don't want to play with you. You find out in schools in those days, when we were in primary school, I had a particular friend that I was a class monitress. So when I write people's names, during break, she has a way of calling all my friends and say, come on, don't talk to her, don't talk to Shola, let's just go. Well, I mean, I had a way of, I had a way I do my own things. I go on the swing, and before you know it, the girls that she took to herself will come and meet me, and they will tell me I shouldn't mind them, or it's that girl that said, it's our friend that said that they shouldn't play with me. So these are little ways to let children know that anybody could be vulnerable. I was a class monitress, and I faced that. So it's not that maybe the child is quiet, the child is mumu or anything. It's a problem with the bully. It's the problem, the bully that has a self-esteem issue. Where does bullying occur? Anywhere. Even in homes, we have siblings rivalries. So how do I know if I'm being bullied or harassed? I've said it. Another form of bullying, which I always talk about in schools, is sexual bullying. Please, rape is not the beginning of sexual bullying. It's actually the end of it. As little as touching somebody in sensitive areas is bullying, and we must let our students know this. So we don't wait until maybe there's a rape incident. As little as talking about somebody's body parts is sexual bullying. And parents must also know this. It should be part of our policies as we have here. If you have to go through it, we will see it. Like I said here, sexual harassment is bullying or concern where any form of unwanted verbal, non-verbal, or physical conduct of a sexual nature, with the purpose or effect of violating the dignity of a person, in particular, when creating an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating, or offensive environment. I'm going to just mention a bit about what sexual bullying could mean. Like I was mentioning, that as little as touching people in sensitive areas is sexual bullying. I mean, I remember some time ago, you know, Nigerians, we take things for granted, just like Dr. Popola said. There was a Nigerian child who was outside the country and slapped his classmate on the bum, his schoolmate in the university on the bum. And this child reported him for assault. It was in the news. And as such, he was sentenced like any other person for that behavior. So even touching somebody on sensitive areas or talking about someone, maybe telling out the classmate that look at that boy, he looks like a girl. Look at the way he's walking. Maybe he's behaving like a girl, or he looks like somebody that is behaving like a girl. Those are sexual bullying, and schools should not tolerate it. So these are all the things that we see. I mean, I just mentioned a few bits here. Constant humiliation, ridicule, belittling. Those ones we have in all these ones we have in our little booklet. I mean, any school who wants it, we always actually distribute it as part of our bullying prevention workshops. It talks about what a bully, I mean, the definition of bully, who are bullies, what types of bullies we have, the help that they need, both for the bullied and the victims, and then what the schools can do, what parents can do. It comes as a full booklet. We have even for primary school, those ones are even the, what do we call them now? They are pictorial. The ones for primary school are pictorial. We have those ones as as booklets. So any school that wants, we can always print it. But like I said, we always appreciate that it comes with the workshop of the school, so that we give it as a total. I give it as a total package for the school. Now, hostility, verbal abuse, those ones are all explained in the booklet that I talked about. Jokes, teasing, written. I mean, some people pass notes in schools. Ade is somebody's girlfriend. I saw Ade and Olu in the toilet. What they did not see, they will write. Those are all things that we call bullying behaviors. So all these things you will find in the policies and procedures. It's a full package that any school who wants it. This does not come with a workshop, but when a school wants it, we design it for the school based on the type of school it is, and we'll come to the school, assess the school, and design your anti-bullying policy and procedures for you. So those are typically the four documents that you need when you're working on the policies and procedures. Like I said, in Nigeria, we don't really have all those things in place, but individual schools can help yourself so that we don't get into this embarrassing situation as the other school, the schools we worked with, that had this incident in the past 2 weeks. If all these policies were in place and they followed them truly, first of all, the bystanders won't even be there, because the bystanders will know that it's an offense to be in a place where bullying is taking place, knowing that bullies, they feed on bystanders. Like I said, there was another video. I don't know if we all saw that too. There was another video of a boys in the same school. I think it's the same school, but boys this time. And a child was being bullied, but there was a boy who came by and just took that child away. And that was the end of it. The bully didn't do anything anymore. But when people are there and they are jeering, they are clapping, they are videoing, you're giving the bully that energy to continue to do what he or she is doing. And that is where the school come in. With the policies and procedure, they say where there are no laws, there are no sins. But when a school puts down its policies and procedure and say, these are the offenses, these are the ways we want things to be done henceforth, every parent will also go home and talk to the child. And if there's a child that has this psychological problem, the school will easily identify, because sometimes even these bullies, it's not as if they know, some of them don't even know that what they are doing is wrong. They think it's just one of those things. But once the rules and regulations are put in place with the policies and procedure, everybody now knows that, okay, what I did the last week, oh, this one I told this child to kneel down, is now an offense. And then you see parents now will start telling their children, be careful, oh, if you do this, this is the punishment. The school has given us a package. So I think I will leave I will allow us once again to ask questions and see if, for me, I would help as much as possible. This is something I've done for 10 years. So I've had a lot of experiences working with children, working with schools. Because most times I go for the workshop, some students, you'll be surprised, would even come to me to talk about what they're going through at home. And sometimes I have to discuss with the school and let them know that, okay, this child is going through, not even the bullied. Now, it has nothing to do with bullying. Sometimes some children want more attention from their parents, and they can only open up when you have such workshops. Because now they understand that parents and themselves are partners in this together. And then you see some come to tell you, okay, I've not seen my parents. We live in the same house, but we've not seen each other for 1 week. And then, such situations will be reported to the school, and the school will try to see how they can work around it. So like I said, when there's a bullying incident in your school, please don't take the bully as the devil, as the assistant of devil. The bully might actually, no, that does not stop you from giving the right punishment or discipline, but again, go a step higher to help the bully, because he or she is also a citizen in Nigeria. If he or she leaves your school, which could be the case in some cases, but it's still going there in the society. So there's that need to even encourage parents, even if the child will be leaving your school, encourage the parent to please look after that child. Know exactly why that child is behaving like that. Has she been bullied before? As a family growing up, do you give the child everything and the child now sees it as a right? That any other person that has what he or she has is a problem? Or is the child anxious? Is the child nurtured positively? Does the child have the right attention from the parents and even from us as educationists? So I think I have Mrs. Egba again. She has her hand up. So this is question and answer time. We've talked about speaking out as the antidote to bullying incidents. Okay, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am, once again. I remember I saw you at the conference today.
Yes.
Just looking at your face now, we were there and you were right in front of me. Yes. Well done. I just want you to help me share some tips. Okay. You know, as the head of school in my school, I have 2 children that have been giving me sleepless nights, and their teachers have run out of ideas as to how to help them with bullying situation. The first one, his dad that he's not close with bullies him, and we are struggling to look for how to counsel him to help him manage his emotions. So his dad does not stay with him. He has been sort of an absent father, but every time he comes around, it leaves a bad taste in this child's mouth. So he's going through bullying from his parent. And then the second one is an active bully who bullies emotionally, because she says very, wrong things about the children in her classes. She draws about them. She just talks down on them, and it's becoming very worrisome. And it's because of her I asked my first question, because her parents don't believe that she can do anything like that. So now I'm just looking for how to counsel these children, so that we can start from somewhere. If we can share any tips on how we can move on with that counseling, that would be very fantastic.
Thank you very much. The first one, you said the dad is like an absent dad, and I mean, that's psychologically is affecting that child, really. And that's why the child is hurting. And so it's from that hurt, the child is trying to get on other people. I think what you could do, because some parents don't even know that they are hurting their children. Some parents don't know that when you're not there, psychologically, you may be hurting the child. You understand? So communication is very, very important. I mean, parents need to look for food so that those children can go to school, like they say. It's important to communicate with that child. So what I would say is maybe try to get the parent or the dad and let him know what she's going through, what he is going through, for him to know that it's affecting him, and you can give instances of his behaviors or of his actions. Another thing you could do is organize a workshop. Bullying, I tell you, each time we go on bullying prevention workshops, there is a college. I thought Mrs. Ajala was here because I saw it was most likely another Mrs. Ajala that was there before. We always go on workshops in schools. And I tell you, most times we go on this workshop, by the time we break down who bullies are, what constitutes bullying, and how to help them, we let them know that bullies have problems themselves. Because the idea in the country is, oh, okay, bully is a strong person. We know they're not. Most of them are struggling with their self-esteem. So by the time these are all broken down, a lot of them understand that they have problems. And you see them really coming out to ask questions. And like I said, the antidote to bullying is to speak out. When the other students know that they have to speak, okay, if everybody is speaking out now, the bully will not know what to do again. And like I said, some of them don't even know, the bystanders. I always stress on that when we go for workshops, that don't stay around a bullying incident. If you are in the same class as the bully, and you know that the bully will respond to you, just go nicely to the bully and say, please leave her now. But if you think, please don't, if you think your power cannot match that bully, I always tell the student, please go to an adult, because the bully will leave that person and pounce on you. So if it's a junior student, for instance, that sees his fellow junior student being harassed, just quickly run to the house mistress or even a senior in the class of that person. But please don't stay around that person if you know the person will overpower you, because he will leave, he or she would, is hurting. The bully is somehow sick, really. So the person will leave that person, he or she is bullying, and come to you. Remember I said that they perceive that their victims are weaker. The victims are not necessarily weaker, but it's a perception that they are weaker. And so they do all they can to unleash their own problems on their victims. So that is that about the child who as the dad that I mean, you said is like an absent father. You need to call the father. Some parents still don't know what they are doing. Every parent wants to give the child the best. And every parent really actually think, well, we're raising our children the right way, until maybe somebody tells us that we need to do more. There's no parent that will say, I want to raise this, I want to destroy this child under normal circumstance. But sometimes what we're giving them, we're not giving them the right nurture. And that's where the problem comes. And until somebody tells us, I've been to a school before where a child said, I mean, just like I said before, does not see the parent for a week. And there was this child, this particular child will always be moody in school until a day they asked him, and he said he has been trying to get the attention of his father for almost a week. They live in the same house, but the only way they communicate is by intercom. And the father will always come in late. So by the time the father comes in, he's sleeping. Maybe the next morning is when he realizes, and it's late again. And sometimes he calls the father, and the father will say, okay, let's book an appointment. That's the father. Let's book an appointment for Saturday. And that Saturday comes, and then he's in another one or a function somewhere and all that. So this child was hurting. But the school quickly realized that, and they spoke to him. And then they called the attention of the father. It was at that point that the father actually knew that, I mean, it was hurting the child. Most parents will say, after all, I gave you 100,000 naira. But children need more than that money at some point. They need that communication, irrespective of the age. So we don't think, oh, because they're in the boarding house, let's just leave them there. No. Then the second person, what did you say was about the second person now? The girl. I remember you said the parents didn't believe.
Yes, ma'am. They didn't believe, or they don't believe that she's capable of constantly bullying the children in her classroom. And hers is verbal and emotional bullying. Okay. And she taunts them in class. Yes. She uses the fact that she's almost the smartest child in the class to silence them. Yeah. And it's been going on for almost a year now. Yeah. Bringing her parents in has not, been fruitful to us because they don't believe what we are saying.
Okay, so you remember something? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So we just want to see if we can start counseling her.
Yeah.
I want to advise the teachers on what to do next. And I believe counseling would help, but we need tips as to how to go about it.
You remember that I said that there are those bullies we call the sadistic bully?
Yes.
Those ones are the ones who have a very high self-esteem of themselves. Probably because some of the children could be because they're the only child in the family. They are used to getting their way. Just like you said, he's very intelligent, she's smart. So she has that overblown ego about herself, and she thinks she can get away with anything. And that is where I said, sometimes if you have these workshops that defines who each type of bully is, people will understand who they are. So like it's highlighted that a sadistic bully is that person who feels that, no, I mean, he or she is above other people. You can't have what I have. You can't, that's why I said sometimes when they are when they're one child family, because they're used to having everything and they are not sharing with anybody. So when they come to school, it's a problem. And when they see other people having the same thing as they have, it becomes a problem. So sadistic bully, they have a very high self-esteem of themselves. Having a high self-esteem is not good. Having a low self-esteem is not good. We need healthy self-esteem. Healthy self-esteem is the type that, I mean, your friend has something you don't have, you're still friends. You are who you are. Your friend is who he or she is. So that type of a child, one might just have to go through, I mean, like I said, maybe if there was those type of booklets that I said we share around, you could use it. Because I always tell schools that get it, that this is like your religious book. Make sure you read, the children read it. We always give it to them after the workshop and we say, make sure the children read it. On assembly, you might just take one topic. Take sadistic bully topic and talk about it. These children, they know. So the child that bullies might not even know that she's bullying. To her, it's just that I'm a smart child. After all, I'm a smart child. I just want to let you know that I'm here. You understand? But by the time you break it down, let her know that it's not healthy for her. Nor is it healthy for other children. She can't be slagging people because she thinks she's on the eye. I mean, she's intelligent. If she's intelligent, the more reason she should just be patient and behave nicely, not to flaunt it around other people. That does not really show a very healthy self-esteem. So I think that's the only way around it, since the parents, I mean, even the parents, they will now recognize, when they have such workshops, they too will now recognize that the behavior of their child is not normal. And maybe they might start cautioning the child in so many ways and helping the child to behave normally. So I think those are the ways around it. From what you have said, she has a very high self-esteem of herself, and if we're not careful, she's going to grow into to become a sadistic bully, which means that she would, at any slight of something that looks like people are close to her, it might affect her. So I can see there's a question coming up. Yeah, be humble. Humility is, I mean, being humble, humility is it's one, I mean, I always tell people that there's a thin line between self-confidence, that's another thing. There's a thin line between self-confidence and pride. A child that does not take correction is proud. And I mean, there's this, what do we call it that we normally do? This workshop that we normally do. I can share, I mean, if you give me I can give that free to anyone who wants it. There's a thin line between self-confidence and pride. A child that does not take correction is proud. A child that is not humble is proud. A child that is not open to corrections or to other suggestions from other people is proud and does not have a healthy self-esteem. So once people, in fact, this could also be another way to go around it. You might on your own talk about the difference between pride and self-confidence. Because in our own mind and in the mind of our parents, they might be thinking that it's self-confidence she's exhibiting, but that's bullying. You cannot exhibit your own self-confidence or pride at the expense of other students. So having a bullying workshop, talking about self-confidence and pride, letting them understand the difference between self-confidence and pride could actually help this child. Like I said, she might not even know that what she's doing is wrong. In her mind, she's just like, I'm a smart child. I mean, don't talk to me anyhow and all that. But that's not the way to behave. If you're a smart child, if you have a good self-esteem, you should actually be helping other people with your smartness, looking for a way to help them, not bringing them down. So somebody said, good evening, ma'am. Sometimes bullying takes place right in the class, and the teacher may not be aware of it, though the classmate may be aware of it. but will not divulge it to anyone. Ma, can you share tips on signs of bullying in class? I mean, when there is bullying in class, you might know by the way, if the victim is in the class, you will know. The victim, don't assume that that quiet child or that child that is unhappy, that is looking unhappy, is it's just there like that. There might be something sparking that emotion. So teachers too we all have to be emotionally intelligent. I'll give you a very good example. I think last week I was going out and my driver, I noticed that from the house, it wasn't driving nicely. So I went somewhere for a meeting, and in my mind, I was like, I'll tell him, please just park the car, take a deep breath, in and out. Because I know the way he drives normally, but this particular day, from the time he picked me to my first meeting point, the driving was not good at all. And I knew something was wrong. So once I finished with the meeting, I just called him and I said, please park the car. We're both in this car. Breathe in and out. And maybe you'll be composed. It was at that point he told me that I wasn't feeling well. He actually had typhoid. But I was sensitive to know that something was wrong. So I had to quickly make sure I did what I did on time so that I can go home early. So teachers too should please be emotionally intelligent. I mean, when you have children in class, you know a child that is very cheerful, and maybe the child stops being cheerful, or a child a behavior just changes. At that point, you will know that something is wrong somewhere. They will not tell you. Okay, please, let me just write this. Let me take the screenshot. I think somebody said I want, please. Okay. Okay, you know what? It's better for me to get your request by email. I'm going to type my email out so that you can send the request, and I'll send you the workshop on self-confidence and the thin line between self-confidence and pride. So just type in my email now.
Mistake, I guess.
At Gmail.
I don't answer now, so no, ma.
Mistake.
Okay, so Yeye Oba, I'm going to put it there. yeyeoba.adeshola@gmail.com. So please, let me just take a screenshot in case I don't have this. yeyeoba.adeshola@gmail.com. You can just send a request and I will be happy to send that, or you can send a request by WhatsApp. I'm going to give you the WhatsApp. It's +234 903 733 0934. So that's my WhatsApp. It doesn't go on call, so it's just WhatsApp, +234 903 733 0934. If you make a request, I'll send to you the slides on self-confidence and pride. There is a very thin line between it. Once a child cannot be corrected and all that, who's not ready to take corrections, not ready to listen and all that, that's already its pride. Anyone who is confident, when you have a very good self-esteem, a healthy self-esteem, you're likely to be very confident. But you'll be humble. Humility comes with self-confidence, and it comes with helping others, not bringing other people down. Not other people. because you know who you are in any case. So whatever any other person does not really affect you. But those with very low self-esteem gets affected when other people make them unhappy or something. They should be in control of their emotions. Once people cannot be in control of their emotions, then it's no longer self-confidence. So I think that's it. Do we have any other question? I think there's somebody's mic on. 23 Xiaomi 230828 BRNCAG. I don't know. I think that's the make of the phone or the laptop. But please, do we have anyone who wants to ask a question? If at any time we still want to talk, we want to ask questions, I mean, I have my email here and I have my WhatsApp number, so people can always contact me, and I'll be happy to support, to help the much I can. If it means having a workshop in the school, we'll talk about it and all that. If it means getting the book to the school, we have booklets. Like I said, we have two. There are booklets, the ones that are pictorial for primary school under 10, and then we have from 10 plus. Those ones are written, and that explains everything, what a bully is about, who are the bullies, what types of bullies, how the school can help, how parents can help, bystanders, what to do with bystanders, and how bystanders can help. If you find yourself as a bystander in a place, what do you do? So that is I think that's all for now. If we don't have any question, do we have any more question? Okay, somebody is saying something here. There are situations where students who are placed in position to assist the school authorities to maintain discipline, such as class monitors, prefects, exploit those opportunities to bully. Yeah. And that is why you need constant enlightenment on what bullying constitutes. I mean, there are students, to them, like I said, when we were growing up, we call it fagging. Students will tell you to kneel down to serve another student. You'll be ironing clothes for another student. But these things are bullying. And especially some students, some seniors, when they know that you are the target, you are their target, that's when they will wake you up and say, come iron my clothes. It's a different thing if a junior voluntarily says, oh, my school mother, I want to iron your clothes for you. But when a senior wakes a child up, and just because you want to intimidate that child or you want to make that child feel uncomfortable, say, start ironing my clothes for me. So some of them don't know, like I tell you, they are just replaying, some of them are replaying what they see in their houses until you tell them that these things are wrong. Some people, I mean, some of those prefects, like you said, that's what they can only give out what they know, what they have. And what is it they have? It's about where they're coming from. Maybe there are cousins who are older than them. That's the way they look after them and they talk to them like that, or even their house selves. And then the victims are hesitant to report. It's the school to now give them that confidence that you can now report. Henceforth, going further, anybody who does this, report. It's not even an offense not to report. And you find out that they will start speaking out. By the time they hold a workshop and you tell them that the antidote to people bullying them is for them to speak out, there are no two ways. Just speak out. If you don't speak out, bullies will continue. Remember I said that they have self-esteem issue. So if you don't speak out, they continue to do the same thing until the victim speaks out. Bullies say the victims are hesitant to report such incidents because the bullies are occupying. Yeah, let them know that being a prefect does not mean that you should bully other. By the time you break down the meaning of bullying, they will know if they were actually exercising their role, their duty as prefects, or they are bullying other people. And you find out that now that there will be reporting line, everybody will fall in line. The prefects that are bullying other people too will respect themselves because they don't want to be seen as bullies. Now I said, please, ma, can I have a summary of the seminar in our mailboxes? Maybe we should drop it here or send it to you, ma. Actually, I have, I'm trying to see how many hours this is. This is 1 hour, almost 2 hours. Really, almost 2 hours. Okay, I would see if I can get this out. Usually I want to put this, I mean, if we can, on YouTube and see how it goes. Because this is a 2 hours program. I don't know how we can get it on YouTube. That it won't be a problem to, yeah, and that's the best place to actually put it, really, on YouTube. Okay, except you want me to, because I didn't use any slide for this. So we were just speaking. I'll try to see how I can get around it. Please send me an email and I'll try to see how I can get the video out so that we can have an idea of what it is. And then, I mean, if you send me an email, I will see if what we could do with this, either to send the video, but like I said, it's about 2 hours. So I don't really know how we can get around that. But if there's a particular place, I mean, that you really
all you need to do is to get the link to the video. If you're sitting on the cloud or sitting on your PC.
I think that's what I will do. I'll put it on the cloud so that people can, anybody who needs, thank you, Dr. Popola. Anybody who needs it can get the link on cloud, because I'm recording it at the moment on my laptop, but I can send it to my drive and then get the link to anyone who would want to, I mean, go through it again. I think that's the way to go around it. Thank you so much, Dr. Popola. Do we have any more questions? We were actually getting up to 100. I was beginning to get scared because we wouldn't take more than 100. And we were at a point, we were like 90, 92. So I know that this is actually very topical. Every parent wants to know more. Every school wants to know more. Do we have any more questions before we call it a day? Thank you very much for your presence. Thank you, everyone. We have about 57 left now, so I won't be able to call names, but I just want to thank everyone for making it a time here. And like I said, if there's any reason for us to communicate, please, you can go through you can send a message through my email or WhatsApp. Thank you very much, Yeye. I appreciate. Thank you so much, everyone. Francisca, thank you so much. Everyone here on the platform, you've been wonderful participants. I appreciate, and hopefully we hear more from you. Anything you need, please just send me an email or you send a WhatsApp to the telephone number that I put up there. Oh, my WhatsApp, that's the number I put up before. Let me put it up again. I put it up before, so let me just put it up. 09037. Okay, sorry, it's +3 234, because we have audience, we have people calling in, I mean, who are on the platform from outside Nigeria. So I'm going to put +234 903 733 0934. That's it. That's my WhatsApp number. Thank you so much, Victoria Samuel. +234 903 733 0934. Okay, so we've come to the end of today's session, and I'm sure we've all learned one thing or the other. And Hopefully we'll take it on for our schools. As parents, please, we need to nurture our children positively. There's so many things that children need to know. Maybe some of these days we'll talk about social media. I always say many parents now use the social media to pacify their children. It's either they give them a small tab, or they give them an Android phone so that they won't disturb them. Please, we don't need to think about ourselves. For now, we think more about them. We're nurturing them. I would always suggest that children don't have Android phones. This might sound difficult, but I think we did that and it helped. That children don't have Android phones until they get to the university, or at worst, when they are taking their SS3 exam, because I understand sometimes they need to, schools encourage them to go online and all that. But then it should be, if you can, if schools don't do that, so please just keep them off it till they get to the university. And I tell you, when they get to the university, because they've not been doing it all along, it's not going to be a big deal for them. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And yeah. Okay, somebody talked about all these messages are actually coming to me directly. Thank you for putting the workshop together. We should also about addiction. We should also talk about addiction, playing games instead of study. Yeah. Another thing that is good for children is consistency. We should regulate their time so that they know. With that, it also helps them to be accountable. A child knows when to sleep, a child knows when to wake up, a child knows when to play. And this must start from when they are babies. So you know when you're changing the baby's diapers, you know when you're giving the baby food. If the baby is crying when you check everything, it's not time to eat. It's not time, because these children are politicians too. It's not time to eat, it's not time to, you put the toys there, and the baby is crying. The baby might just be exercising his or her own lungs. Just keep an eye on that child. And you don't need to give that child that attention, because sometimes when we do that, we overindulge them. And it's going to be a problem for us later. So children must be given rules and regulation. Let them know, have time, regulate their time. Some families don't even allow children to watch. My children were not watching TVs Mondays to Fridays. On Fridays, because there are no homework, they can watch TV Friday to Sunday, and they can use their toys, and we gave them 1 hour. So it's up to you. You can use 1 hour in one day. On Friday, no more toys Sunday and Saturday. Otherwise, if you like, you become accountable and break your 1 hour into 20 minutes for the 3 days. These are little things that help children to be.
And the children will call the police on you.
No. My children were actually outside the country. We owned it together. So it wasn't that I stood up and I said, it's not as if we stood up and I said, this is what we want in this house. We call everybody and we say, okay, from time to time, because it's something that it was a practice the younger ones too met. So you own it. Let me give you a very good example. Recently, I told my driver and I said, you're going to learn Google Map, because this one you're taking me the whole of the place. I want to go to a place that I should go in 20 minutes. I'm going 45 minutes. I know the way it is in this part, that if you lose your way, you have to go again. So I told him, I said, you have to learn Google Map, and he didn't like it. So I now told him, I said, so when you have a job, when you go for a job interview in Chevron, and they ask you what skills you have that other drivers don't have, and you tell them you know how to read Google Map, I will start collecting 10% of your salary in Chevron. It was then it dawned on him that we should own this together. And since then, he became very enthusiastic. He's even the one, when I've even forgotten that he should use Google Map. He's the one that will tell me, let's use Google Map. He said this thing is talking to him, or he likes it the way it's talking to him. So sometimes when you're given rules and regulation, let the people own it, because that's the only way it can be effective. And if there's something that is a practice, you would. I mean, did I hear somebody say that if you were to be in the UK, outside the country, they will sue you? Someone said it, but I will tell you that one day, the children and I went to our GP, and we saw a magazine on the table of the GP. And that was Michelle Obama saying that our children don't watch TV during the weekday. So, so I'm trying to counter what that person said. It's about owning anything, any decision you want to make in the family, own it together. So it becomes everybody's responsibility. And you have to explain to them why you're taking that decision, so that everybody will own it. And you see cooperation and collaboration afterwards. So I think we've, okay, somebody said this. I would suggest that the Ministry of Education, Parastatal, conducts unplanned visits to schools. If they can, and carry out unscheduled survey to know the real truth on bullying. If they have to do this, I'm sure they won't do any other work in the ministries. Having the anti-bullying rule book is different from implementing the rules. That's it. Like I said, I don't know if you, the person who said this, who is this now? Nkechi Ere. I don't know if you were there when I was sharing my screen. If you have that package, there's no way you will not implement everything, because you have to review it maybe twice a year, twice an academic year. And knowing that it will be reviewed, what are you going to give as your basis for reviewing if you don't follow it through? If the schools do not follow it through. So I think the first thing for me is even the Ministry of Education to enforce that schools should have anti-bullying policies and procedures in place, because it has to be reviewed. And with data, you would review it. So if you're not even writing down the incidents and you're not following it through, what data will you use to review? So it's very important that, the package, the full package, if every school can have it, it's going to reduce a lot of bullying incidents in our schools. Like I said, it's a normal thing for every context where you have human beings relate to have bullying incidents. But you can minimize it by your policies and procedures, by having workshops, by talking to students all the time, making them even act plays that could help them. And I'm sure at the end of the day, if we follow through like this, we are going to curb bullying. I told somebody recently, I said, we had this 2 years ago when the Doha school issue happened. Everybody shouted, we had workshops and all that, and it stopped there. Now we are all shouting and screaming again. And until we take steps to curbing this, we might just continue in this cycle of, okay, everybody go back to your shell, go back to your school, and then until another incident again, everybody start shouting again. Parents start shouting. Teachers start shouting. Schools start screaming. Then after 2 weeks, everybody keep quiet again until another one comes up again. So we need to be more proactive as schools. I think that's just the only thing I will say. So thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We hope the next time we'll be talking about results, not again about prevention. Wishing everyone a very good evening. Thank you so much, and God bless. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, Mom.
Thank you, ma'am.
I hope you
Bye.
enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Yes, we did. It was very educative. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.